you gotta let me know when they call my name, because I can't hear with the earphones. Better. When was the last time you learned a skill that could kill you? When was the last time that you learned a skill that could kill you? For me, I live on a heavily wooded lot in a town not far away. And I had a project that I needed to do. I needed to take down 9 trees. What more could I need than a chainsaw? I'm ready to go. I did take some time to reflect and think, should I hire a professional? What could a professional bring to the table? Equipment, sure, equipment. As some know me, I love equipment. I love getting those kinds of things that just, you never know when you might decide to, the tree might need to be wedged. I'm ready to go. I've got all the right kind of equipment. Again, I think to myself, what's a professional going to bring to the table besides that? Well, let me go back one second. As I was doing my equipment research, I found myself on eBay looking at a tree truck for a little bit. But while I was on that route of internet research, I did find a statistic that made me think a little bit. 22,000 chainsaw injuries a year. 85% of them have something to do with a moving chain. And I kind of like the practical one. Falling trees and limbs can kill people. So it kind of got me thinking about that aspect. A little further research, I found this company in Pacific Northwest, and I'm into learning. I love their proactive learning. They wanted to teach you what a moving chain could do. So they had something called the test ham. They took a frozen ham and put it down the leg of a pair of jeans. They were not running the saw. They just took their finger off the trigger, so it should be slowing down, and just touched the jeans. The note here is that chainsaws don't slice your leg, it tears your leg. Makes for some difficult stitching. So I start to think to myself, is this really what I want to do? 9 trees, am I going to take this on? So it comes down to some safety equipment. So now we have a category of equipment worth considering. You gotta have, I came in with all my protection. I got my jacket, my helmet, protecting my ears. I've got chaps. I've got equipment that can help protect me and take care of me. I even had to call up a friend and say, can you kind of help me watch? If nothing else, hold the cell phone and call. I was ready to go with those aspects. But I found a local supply company, an arborist supply company. I'm not a professional at this. I'm a teacher. But I found from this local shop their willingness to share learning with me. And they gave me a particular tool, a book. Jeff Jepson, who's a professional arborist, takes down trees all the time, and he took what he's learned, a life of learning, and he put together some great lessons and processes to help people understand how to fell a tree safely, how to do it right and do it with care. One of his steps, the first of 3 that he has in there, is assessing the site. Now, I don't know about you, but the fuel's in there, I'm ready to go, let's start up, let's chop a tree down. Think about that in your daily lives. We think to ourselves, we always want to jump into the project, but the assessment step made me think about this whole thing of taking a tree down. What's it going to take? And it makes you look at different aspects that need to be done. The one that really hit me, not really, but it hit me as I was doing the research, was the part where he taught you to assess the lean of the tree. You put your back against the tree and you look up and you figure out, is it leaning in a particular direction? It really hit me like, this assessment step's kind of important, knowing what's going on. Where are you going to run to? This was all part of it. It's good, this is good, I like this. On the second step, it talked about protecting things and making sure that you ready the felling site. If something's in the way, you move it. If you can't move it, you protect it. But if you can't protect it, you have to avoid it. The avoiding piece gets real tricky because I learned from the leaning phase, there's where you might want the tree to go, and then there's where it's going to go. So it's this part where now the third step, the actual execution of the cut, gets really interesting. 3 things: cut a notch, cut a back cut, retreat. I like the retreat part, like get out of there. I'm okay with that. But there's this knowledge part, but now we're really past preparing, step 1 and 2. We're really into the actual work. how do you cut a tree down? I mean, most people take a saw and they just cut across. At some point, the tree's weight weighs on there and it becomes an issue. There's a process to this, and there's something called the common notch that you use. I didn't even know, but chainsaws actually have on them a sight. This black line is actually a sight that you use as part of lining up where you want it to go. I was like, wow, that's really neat. I didn't know. I got the cool option with the sight. It was great. The first cut you want to do with that line eyeing up there is something called the notch cut, and it's the first one. It's about 45-degree angle in. The second cut you're going to do is straight across. This is forming the notch. The third cut that you do is called the back cut, and it comes in here from the back. In my early lessons, I loved the back cut. I just kept going. It didn't pinch the tree. But what happens is you actually cut a useful part. It's called the hinge. You leave a part between the notch and the back cut. And this actually controls not just the direction, but the speed at which the tree falls. I thought, this is really cool. Wow. Because there's actually this thing called holding wood that remains after the whole process. And it's like, wow, it's kind of cool. That's part of the show. I like this. It started to help me understand this is kind of important. One other thing I learned was that notch thing. My early efforts at a notch, I was like, oh, cut a notch. My first notches were pretty deep into the tree. I wasn't even up to the second cut of the notch, and it's already leaning into the tree. Hence, again, why you walk around with wedges often to help to deal with that. So I learned a methodology. There's something called the 1/3 rule. 1/3 of the diameter, 15-inch tree, about 5 inches in. That's how deep you make the notch. And it got me thinking, okay, I can handle this. I'm ready to go. Grab the saw. Here we go. A little chainsaw safety lesson here. Again, my local arbor store, before buying the saw, gave me about an hour to 2 hours of lessons. Said, call me anytime. And the first thing they were teaching me, I don't know about you, but I'm a drop saw starter. But you in the audience, but you drop it and you pull it like this. I don't know if you noticed, these were not used chaps, but there are some holes that are in here. 2 of these were from chainsaw strikes as I was trying to start the saw. So drop saw starting is bad. That's something to consider. But also how you hold the saw. You want to hold it firmly, 2 hands, one in the back on the trigger, one in the front, and you want to tuck the thumb in, not leaving it out. That's bad. Why? Because it does something called kicking back. Not only could it break your thumb, but you're supposed to be standing offset from what you're cutting, because there's forces at work here. Something called pull forces. The chain's only going 60 miles an hour. So it could actually pull it out of your hands. Second, it could come back on you as well. This is important. So what you realize is something called a pinch, it could kick back and hit your head. So it's kind of important that you take the time to understand some of the basic forces in play here. My thought is, I got to start putting this all together, though. I've got a lot of knowledge, but now can I put it together and make it happen? So here's my tree. It's 95 feet long. I don't know if anybody saw the duct tape that's in the lobby. It says top of tree in the lobby. That's 95 feet from here to in the lobby. That's how big. It's about 3 feet wide. It's a pretty big tree. And I was looking at it in part of my assessment of the Lien, and it's actually leaning towards my little house. So I put a line on it. I actually shot a little line up there, put a line on it with a come along just in case. And I got to work, practicing my knowledge and applying to some skill. I made my first cut. I made my second cut. I was shaking a lot while doing it, but I made the cut. One of the things you do after you make a notch is you inspect the notch, and this is when I lost it. You can't see easily from the back, but the center of the tree is rotted out. Rotted. You know that thing I got all excited about, hinge and holding wood? Gone. It's gone in the middle. 95-foot tree, little house, me, my buddy. I mean, it could have gotten bad, but I had the guideline, and I also had the knowledge that I was taught, and it taught me to set this up properly. So I used that guideline to help pull the tree over, and I even got to practice my retreat. Let's see how I did. Let's see. I was really scared. I mean, for me, my buddy, but my little house, I did check the insurance clause. I mean, that was part of it. But as you look back up that hill, I came to realize that there was knowledge and there was skill, and I put the two together, and I did something pretty good, something that I learned. And this could have killed me. There could have been something called a barber chair that came down and got me. But it didn't, because I practiced as we went along. And when you put this all together, there's definitely the assessment phase, assessing the site and assessing the cut. You do your top cut, your bottom cut, and then your back cut. And then you get out of there yelling, "Timber!" along the way. I didn't get my timber in there because I didn't think I was really in there. But this is when you start to put it all together. I thought, hey, I did this pretty well. Got 8 more of them to go. How could it go? But one of the things you figure out as you're felling a tree is, now you got 9 trees laying around. What can you do next? There's a lot of firewood, or you could bring in a miller. And I had a miller come, and he gave me a little lesson on milling the tree, and he milled it into different pieces. And I used it for a project. This is my house. The reason for the 9 trees that I'm taking down is so I can make room for my house. The tree material will be used for trim, stair treads, as well as the farm tables that are going to be inside the house. I mean, it was just kind of a neat bring it all together aspect to this. When I reflected on it, what's the skill that could kill you? It really wasn't the felling of the tree. It was the part up to that. And it was answering these 5 questions. What do I want to do? How do I do it? Why do I want to do it? That's the next one. 4th, what if I don't do it? What if I don't actually get it done? And the last one, do I have the willingness to make it all happen and bring it all together? That's the skill that could kill you, answering these questions. Because it can make for lots of things that could happen. I'm a teacher for life. That's what I do, but I'm a lesson junkie. And I'm excited by the speakers I've heard here today. I've got some lessons I can build, just like the ones that I learned in How to Fell a Tree. What I wonder for those who are here in the room, what those 5 questions could mean to you. It means taking on some amount of risk, but the risk can take you to some incredible, incredible places. And it brought me to you today, and I want to say thank you.